Hi, everyone, and we're here live with our gorgeous Kristie, who's located in the Colac Otway region. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Wonderful. We're doing our lives. We've been doing more lives because of COVID-19, and we're really excited that this is going to start being a regular thing at Parentmedic. On the 8th of every month, we're just going to take an opportunity to share as much knowledge as we can with you guys. And Kristie is here talking about a topic which A, is really important, and B, has great levels of advocacy. However, it's something that we should never stop talking about, and we should talk about more than ever right now because of the lack of support. So, Kristie, before I jump in and do an introduction for you, how about you tell our Parentmedic community who you are, what you're doing, and what we're going to talk about today?
Okay, my name's Kristie, and I am a mum of two. I have a 5-year-old, almost 6, and a 3-year-old little boy. And before I had children, I worked as a social worker, mainly with youth and young people. But after having children, I came on board to Parentmedic because I did the Parentmedic program myself, and I felt that it was such a great help for me. What we're going to be talking about today is postnatal anxiety, and that's one of the things that I developed as a parent, and the course really helped me. So that's one of the reasons I came on board as a paramedic provider. So, yeah.
And I love that and that's what I love so much about my job. So for those watching, I'm Natalie. I'm the founder of Parentmedic, and I actually develop and design other health educational programs. And it is so empowering to help people like Kristie to get out there and have a voice and to teach valuable skills, which enables us to be more confident humans and more confident parents. I think that's what it comes down to. And we're fully aware at Parentmedic that we teach valuable skills, but the way we teach it isn't the actual skills that are empowering. They are, but it's the way we create those connections to enable you to be confident to do that. So anyone that's watching, please feel free to tag any friends that would love to learn about anxiety. I am a proud anxiety wearer, shall I say it that way? I've got severe anxiety. I've always had it. Kristie's here to share her story. So there's no judgment here. This is a safe space as much as it's online. So feel free to tag people who you want to share, or you want to share your story, commenting below. Ask Kristie any questions because she's got the qualifications to be able to support you as well and refer you to the right places. So let's get cracking. What is perinatal anxiety?
Well, first I wanted to just start with what actual anxiety is, because I think anxiety is just a normal biological reaction. And I mean, I'm having normal anxiety right now because this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. So, I've got a little bit of the nervous shakes and the butterflies in my tummy, and sometimes you might feel a little bit sweaty, and, there's lots of different symptoms, I suppose, around like a normal anxiety behavior. And a lot of it's based around our fight-flight response. So, it's a survival mechanism in that sense. So, it's very normal and common for us to have these feelings, but it's when it gets out of control and starts overwhelming us and taking over that it becomes an issue. So often if, like, once we've turned off the live, or I've gotten into the next 5 minutes, my anxiety levels will decrease a little bit, and after I finish I'm like, whew, right, done. But it's when it doesn't stop and you're constantly feeling that anxious level and you're constantly worrying about things. And as new mums, there is that normal level of anxiety because it's something new, it's something we've never done before. There's no books. Well, there's 1,000 books. And sometimes I think that's, part of the issue. There's so much information out there and you don't know what to take in and what not to take in. So that can add to the anxiety as well. So, but basically, as a parent, there is a normal level of anxiety. And I think what we want to talk about today is what happens if it gets too much and what do we do when it's too much. So perinatal anxiety is anxiety that can happen when you're pregnant, so in your 9 months of pregnancy, and also the year after pregnancy, so that first year of having your child at home. And learning how to be a parent and learning how to look after a young person, and what do we do, and dealing with sleep and not sleeping and eating, and all the different worries that come up with being a parent. And it's not something that just affects new mums. It can affect mums who are having their second or third or fourth child, and it also affects our dads or our partners as well. So it's really important that we keep an eye on everybody in the family unit. So
Kristie, the interesting part about that, what you're speaking about, is A, it's heightened now because parents have such a lack of support. B, potentially ongoing. Mine are 10 and 11. Where am I at? See, I'm forgetting ages. Anyway, 9 and 11. And I certainly find throughout my parenting journey that there's increases at certain times. And what I learned as a new parent about anxiety and perinatal anxiety has actually helped me facilitate those different waves throughout my parenting journey. And I think that's a really important part of that. So, and you said yourself you've had postnatal depression.
No, I didn't have postnatal depression. I had postnatal anxiety. So when we talk about postnatal anxiety and perinatal anxiety, they can run separate to postnatal depression. And I think there's such a big emphasis on postnatal depression, and some people aren't aware that anxiety can run separate to that. So if they're not having the depressive symptoms, they may be ignoring the anxiety symptoms. Often they come together, and we will see signs of both, but there is the chance that they do run separately as well. So you may not always have depression if you have anxiety, but they do correlate as well and can coexist.
And I literally just did it myself. You're so right. There is such an emphasis on postnatal depression. I knew this talk was about perinatal anxiety, and it was the first thing that came to my mouth. And it's so right. All I see is P&D, 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 and very literally I see P&A.
Or it always follows the P&D. So, I think that people always then put them together where they don't always have to come together. So I think that's why I wanted to just focus on the anxiety today, because they don't always have to coexist. So, like 1 in 7 women will have postnatal depression, 1 in 10 men will have postnatal depression, but it's just as high for anxiety. So whether they coexist or not, the levels of prevalence at the moment are very similar. So it is a very prevalent, situation at the moment. And with what's happening in our world at the moment with COVID, there's even more anxiety just around, whether we should be going out to the shops and, those sorts of things, and, having immunizations, and should be with newborns. I have a friend who's just had a newborn, and she's waiting till she has her 6-week immunization before anyone comes and sees a baby. So, and it's about feeling confident to make those decisions as well, and not letting them weigh you down when you're trying to do all the other stuff with your newborn. So
and on a different note but similar, when restrictions are slowly being lifted, I was like, everyone, let's meet up. But then I slowly had to find myself step back, because although restrictions might be lifted or things might be going back to normal, people just aren't ready yet. Just because it's in paper or in the media, it doesn't mean that you have to be like that. And I think that's so relevant to so many decisions we make as a parent, because just because someone's saying now's the time or this is when you should do it, you have to reflect on yourself. Well, am I ready? And this is what I want to do. And is this right for me as a family? And sometimes we're really disempowered to do that, because we're fed all that information. This is how it must be done, and this is how I did it. Why aren't you doing it like that? That we forget to just sit with ourselves and say, what is right with our family? What does this work for us? And these are our goals. So when we're talking about symptoms, can I ask you, what were the symptoms that kind of you first recognized that you had P&A? I said it. I did it right. What are the symptoms of P&A, and how did you manage that? At what point are you like, this has probably gone a bit too far?
I probably didn't notice it, didn't acknowledge that it had gone too far until after I had my second child. So, and then after having counselling around that, then it, I realised that I probably should have done something about this earlier. And I think that's one of the things, is that it doesn't discriminate. So, mental health doesn't discriminate. So a lot of people who haven't dealt with mental health before and who, may be quite capable people, have, quite intense jobs, or, be, quite professional and quite high up in their positions. A lot of the time, having that mental health can possibly be seen as a weakness, or, they sort of push it to the side because there's shame and, guilt around that. Like, why can't I do what I'm meant to be doing as a parent? I can, run a meeting with 40 people and stand up the front, but I actually can't, do what I need to do for my child right now. So I think that can hold a lot of people back. So everyone needs to be aware that everyone is vulnerable to this, and that it's nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to feel guilty about. I probably started having panic attacks, and when that happened, I knew that something wasn't right. But once so I was getting the shortness of breath, the chest fluttering, the shakiness. It was just, that was the sort of reaction I was having with panic attacks. Some people feel dizzy and disorientated. It can affect people in different ways, and I think that's a really important thing to acknowledge, is that everyone's symptoms will be different. So just because, your other friend is crying all the time and you're not, doesn't mean that you're both experiencing a similar thing. So you may be just dealing with it in a different way. You may be quite irritable. You may be angry. You may be persistently worried. I was constantly worried that something was going to happen to my daughter, and what if I wasn't there to help her? So I didn't want her to go with people. I was always worried if she did go with people, and I constantly felt nervous and anxious until she was back home. So it was those, and then I didn't realize that this is what was happening for me until later on. So
and it is really scary for those that are listening that may have not had a panic attack and thinking, oh God, I can't be that. It is so scary. I remember having my first when I was 18, and I ran to the hospital. I was at work. I ran to the hospital thinking I was dying. It was a horrible feeling. But in regards to picking up the signs and making sure we get help, straight away my thought process is we're in very much a problem-solving society, where at work there's a problem and we learn how to fix it pretty rapidly. But in our own personal lives, and with one of the most vulnerable relationships that you have with your baby, there is this problem. How do I solve it? We try and solve it, and not being able to solve it, sometimes we can feel like a massive failure, because there is no real problem-solving solution when it comes to your child, and we're so used to a problem-solving community. And the one thing I can say to people, when we're in a position of feeling this, don't seek solutions straight away. I think the first step personally is saying, I can feel it, there's something going on, and I might not find a solution, but being brave enough to identify it's happening. And then when you reach out to those right people, I promise you they will help you solve the problem. They'll help you solve how to get through it. Trying to do it on your own is very difficult. And we don't have those networks, do we, Kristie? We don't have that village.
Yeah, that's right. And I think also, like, low self-esteem and lack of confidence is a really big symptom. And, it's not one that people necessarily think of. They might just be feeling like they're not confident because they think that it's normal, and people will be saying, oh, that's normal, you've never done this before. And a lot of the times, as I said, there is an element of normalcy to it. Yes, there is. But when it's going too far, if you're starting to create obsessive compulsive behaviors around trying to control the situation, a lot of anxiety is based around lack of control, and not feeling good enough, feeling like you're not doing the right thing, which all parents feel like that, because we don't know, you never know whether you're doing the right thing. And it can become quite difficult and overpowering. And I think it's when it starts taking over, and as I said, you might be constantly worried. You start doing little things to make you feel like, well, if I do this, then this won't happen. And just those little behaviors that can be behaviors to help you get through. But then if they start to become maladaptive behaviors where, you know, if you think, well, I just won't go to the shops, you know, for example, now people might be wary of going to the shops because of COVID-19, and that's fine, and you're making the right choice for you and your family. But if your anxiety around that continues on with your children, and then you can't leave the house and you're constantly fearful of that, then you become to a point where you just stay inside. You know, you can't leave. Then that's not a way to deal with the solution, and it's actually become more detrimental to you than it was as that early coping mechanism. So
yeah, and if you're finding yourself in that position, that your flight or fight response is in pure overdrive, you know, it's not you making that happen. What happens is that we're in that overdrive, and it's like a sensory overload, you know, and our brain is so clever that when we start feeling scared, it starts associating smells, what it sees. So if you had a moment where you were fearful in a shopping center, it will continue happening because your brain's now registered that as a potential scary situation. So sometimes we wait for that feeling to go away, but there is a point where you need to start going, yes, brain, thank you. I was scared then, but it doesn't mean I'm now scared of every single shopping experience in my life. But it does that to protect us, so we have to be really grateful for that skill because it helps us survive. And off topic, I want to share some research quickly, because if you are experiencing this, I have this recently during COVID-19, my family, I gave away my Anxious Monkey Award. Now, I just want to bear with this. There's been some great research on monkeys, where what is the role of that anxious monkey? And what they showed was, in a group of monkeys way back, the anxious monkey was the one who actually helped its little cohort or tribe survive things, pick up dangers very quickly. So there is a role for our anxious monkey. And you might always have that tendency. So being a level of proud of it, or not proud, but knowing that there is a space for anxiety and it does help us, and being grateful for having it, but we don't want it going into overdrive to the point that you can't just live a happy life and go to the shops and not be scared, you know?
Yeah, because it does help us as parents too. It helps us to be aware of what things we need to keep an eye out for our children and to make sure that they are safe. So it is, as you said, it's something that we need to have, and it's just that biological response. And so it's important that we do have it, but we don't want it to go out of control. So
how did you find that balance? Can I ask personally, we'll get to some resources. How did you, because I know we're on 17 minutes and we don't you've been here too long, so thank you everyone for watching, but what helped you the most? Can you just share? I know it's different for everyone, but what helped you the most?
I think talking helped me the most. And I think that's one of the things is if you are feeling like your feelings are too much, because as I said, the anxiety feelings are quite normal. It's a natural thing. But if they get too much, that's when they're taking over. So if you feel like they're getting too much, talk to someone. And that's a really hard conversation. So if you can't talk to, if you don't have a close friend or family member that you can talk to, then talk to the professionals. There's so many professionals around that will do things for you. So you've got the Panda website, you've got Beyond Blue, your GP, your maternal and child health nurse. If you go to Panda, you can, they've got checklists for perinatal, so for mothers who are pregnant and their partners. They've got postnatal, so they've got checklists for women who have had their children and also for their husbands or partners. They also have a checklist for carers or parents. So, if your mum was worried about you, she could get on there and have a look and check the checklist. And if you go to Beyond Blue, they have the postnatal Edinburgh scale, which is the scale that your GP will use as well. So they will and that will determine your levels in terms of depression and anxiety. So you can go on there and do that scale and do that test, and then they can give you a score, and then they can help direct you in where to go. And you can also take it to your GP. So it might help you to think, especially at the moment when, going to a GP is quite difficult. You're often having appointments in the car park, and this is something that you might not want to be talking to in front of other people. You can go with confidence that, okay, yes, I do need to go and have this conversation with somebody. And you can talk to the people about that. And this isn't a conversation that you want to be having. They can do phone consults. Panda also are available for phone consults still at the moment. So the help desk is still there for you. So, I just encourage anyone to talk.
Yeah, and even in regards to the checklist, if you do the checklist and there's nothing like identifiable to put you in a little category, still seek the help. I think, parenting is really hard. We have to be more open about it. And the only thing I'd love to express is that it's a journey. Sometimes it's a bit exhausting as a parent learning so much, and you're like, when will this journey end? It doesn't, but it doesn't end. But I appreciate the fact that it's a journey, and consider it like professional development in parenting land. And once you reach the right people, if great, you get that anxiety under control, but knowing who am I going to get that support when I might find something really difficult with parenting again. And I think that's a really important thing to understand, that it's a journey more than just and we got telehealth. Quickly, I just want to say we do have telehealth. Telehealth is a great resource. You can get a mental health care plan from your GP. Most GPs do telehealth as well. If you want to speak to someone now, you can always call anyone for telehealth counselling and then get your mental health care plan later. So don't make the paperwork a barrier to reaching out and getting help. The telehealth services are point at the moment.
And I think I just would like to say, there's something that Hugh said from the Resilience Project that's always really stuck with me. And he, in his presentations, he shows a graph of mental health and the continuum. And if you look at mental health in comparison to health, they are exactly the same. So we sit at a level of good health. Physically, we sit at a level of good health. Mentally, we sit at a level of good health. But then situationally, things will occur where our health, we might have a really happy experience. So our mental health will increase. It will be really great. We'll feel vibrant and joyful and fantastic. And then we'll go back to that normal level. In the same thing, we can have these instances or situations where our mental health goes downward a little bit, and we need to go and get some assistance around that, whether that be talking to a counsellor, whether it be medication. Just like we would with our physical health. If we get a cold, our physical health goes down, we go to the doctors, we get antibiotics, or we have a rest, or we lay down, we take a day off work. So if you think about your mental health in the same way as your physical health, it's nothing to be ashamed or feel guilty about. And I think that that's just a really important message to go out at the moment, especially in the situation that we're in at the moment, where mental health is the prevalence with COVID and even the bushfires at the start of the year and all the stuff that Australia's been going through this year, mental health is a big factor, and we need to be very aware of it.
Well, I love that. And that's a really good way of saying, kind of creating that normalcy around seeking help. You need to seek help, and that it is a journey. It's not stagnant. Thank you so much, Kristie, for sharing. I've really appreciated the chat today, and hopefully people find it helpful. We do have our online baby and first aid course, and before we move on, because we're jumping stations a little bit, the reason we love Kristie being one of our educators is because she does really understand how to use skills and knowledge and apply it to help you feel more empowered as a parent. So Kristie does teach our baby and child first aid sessions, and really, really passionate about it. And because Kristie understands that sometimes attending a public, we did some research on how attending a public baby and child first aid session might be a bit of a hindrance if you are someone who is experiencing anxiety. You're not wanting to go to a big public session, nor are you wanting to possibly have people coming into your home, which is your safe space, to run one of our private baby and child first aid sessions. So Kristie is a huge advocate for our online product because it does help those who might find those situations a little bit too intimidating to at least learn some of the basics as a new parent, as expected, or having a new baby. And this is why we do love our online product, because we truly believe in our hearts that everyone should have access, everyone, whether you're someone with anxiety or not, if that environment's too uncomfortable, online is the place to be. And Kristie does open her mind and her heart up to be able to offer this baby online first aid product. You can directly purchase it from Kristie. And the reason she's really heavily involved in that is because she is really trying to fill that gap. And we're so proud to have Kristie on board our team. So Kristie, how can people organise the baby and child first aid product from yourself?
So if you go to our website, you'll be able to find a picture of me down the bottom, and you just click on that link and it will take you through to purchasing the online product. So I think it's a really important product that will, for me as someone who's suffered with PNA, it was something that actually helped me a little bit too, because one of my main factors was around the health of my child. So knowing that I knew what to do if something happened. And then I did have a situation where something happened when she was older, and I knew what to do and I was confident about that. So I think it's very important to get this information out there to everybody, just so we know what to do before help arrives. And that's why we want to get it out there.
Yeah, and importantly, when we say first aid, for us at Parentmedic, that means first to help. We think everyone has a right to be able to help their child between calling 000 and emergency arriving. Every single human deserves that right. So thank you, Kristie, for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Details in comments. And Kristie is really, really keen to be able to provide the online product to not-for-profits and community organisations. And because Kristie does have that really great link to social work, if you're a not-for-profit or community service getting the online product from Kristie, she's more than happy to facilitate support or contextualising some of the content to be able to support you in that manner. So thank you, Kristie. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Bye.